Law Minister Edwin Tong says Singapore must guard its multicultural society as social cohesion does not happen by chance. He stresses that economic disruption and digital disinformation are deepening social divides within and between nations. Mr. Tong was speaking at the close of a global conference on cohesive societies.
Today's world is not just defined by geographical boundaries. It is a global village connected by technology and trade, and yet, sadly, very often divided by suspicion and fear. So we must find a way, even as we part company after today, to go back to our own communities and have that shared thought leadership on how we build a cohesive society across the world.
More than 1,000 thought leaders from 50 countries attended the event in Singapore. Mr. Tong points out that Singapore has embraced its people's differences to build strength by integrating various groups. He warns that weaponizing race and religion will lead to broken trust and calls for responsible speech in online and offline spaces. Minister of State for Culture, Community and Youth Dinesh Vasudash also spoke at the event. He says individuals must be discerning about the information they consume about social issues.
Sometimes these narratives are passed at different parts of the world, which may not be relevant or applicable to us. But as a collective, I think many of our self-help groups, our interreligious groups, our harmony circles can do a lot to make sure that we stay united despite pressures that may come our way.
And for more on the role businesses can play in fostering social cohesion, I'm now joined by Ho Kwon Ping, founder and executive chairman of Banyan Group. Mr. Ho, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us tonight. First of all, what do you see as the biggest threats to social cohesion today from a business perspective?
From a business perspective, I think the biggest threat is the increasing hypocrisy of companies in mouthing platitudes regarding multiculturalism and all the other nice things such as sustainability, social cohesion, and so on and so forth. And I think this has been well demonstrated that in the United States of America, where all the large companies have basically gone along with all the platitudes about multiculturalism and DEI, when there's a change of government and a leader comes along that essentially asks them to drop all of this, they drop it with great enthusiasm. And I think this goes to show that in Singapore, where we have been very successful in promoting multiculturalism, especially by the government over the last 60 years, there is a real danger that companies do not themselves imbibe all these values. And should we ever have a change of government, God forbid, one day that is promoting the same values as in the United States, will companies themselves be able to take the lead in basically putting out the values that they truly believe in? Or will they just play along with what happens to be the flavor of the month? And do companies really have inherently deep values of their own about multiculturalism and many other issues?
In light of the evolving geopolitical tensions that we're seeing today, polarization that we're facing today, what are some values that businesses need to foster?
Well, I guess motherhood and apple pie statements are simply that, but they are motherhood and apple pie simply because they are universally accepted. It seems to me very self-evident that if companies perceive and believe that business is a key driver of social change, then all the values that are positive towards social change, they should simply adopt. And there's so many of these issues, but it goes beyond belief that, for example, sustainability, diversity, equality, inclusiveness, these are all motherhood and apple pie statements. They're not terribly controversial. But businesses have shown, particularly in the United States, that when given an opportunity to drop it, they drop it with alacrity and they drop it quite enthusiastically and blame the government. So this hypocrisy is something that I think all of us as business leaders have to examine deeply within ourselves. Do we genuinely have values that are inherent to our business mission and we will carry out and we will defend because they are important to us? Or do we simply do what the government of the day says we should do? I think that is the dilemma that all businesses have to face today, and the cowardice of many of the very biggest and most reputable companies in the United States has given me great reason to doubt that we can see leadership from American companies. And in Singapore, our own companies have to basically develop our own values of multiculturalism and so on. And we're very fortunate that the government of the day espouses all these things. But if they do not in the future, will we have the courage still to espouse what we truly believe in?
Let's bring in Banyan Group into the conversation. How is the organization practicing and prioritizing corporate social responsibility here in Singapore?
Well, I think not necessarily in Singapore, because our footprint in Singapore is relatively small, but we are in about 27 to 30 countries. We only have about 15,000 associates, but we have about 70 over nationalities. And I think one of the things that we do, which is perhaps applicable for Singapore and Singapore companies, is that I think that institutional multiculturalism has long been established in Singapore. But we need to go beyond that now as a company and as a society. We need to go into dynamic interculturalism. Institutional multiculturalism means you simply respect other societies, respect other cultures and races and so on. But a dynamic interculturalism implies that you really try to get people to mix and understand each other. We're doing this very actively today, all the time. We try to create task forces which are drawn from people of very different nationalities and backgrounds to open our different hotels. We have global town halls where we put together selected people from different cultures and different backgrounds to in fact form groups that need to discuss with each other various topics and then present it to the rest of the community and so on. So my only point here is that I think we've been very successful as a society in promoting multiculturalism, but now we have to go one step beyond to ensure that we have a dynamic interculturalism, which is substantially different than multiculturalism.
As we move forward, Mr. Ho, what advice would you give to business leaders looking to play a role in maintaining and fostering social cohesion?
I think the lesson that the geopolitical situation has taught to me and to others of my other CEOs who've been watching what's been happening in the United States is that, as I said earlier, if we believe that business is a major agent for social change and for the betterment of society, then what do business leaders have to do? We simply have to look at what we believe in. And if we don't believe in multiculturalism, well, fine and good. But if we do believe in it, and obviously I think it is a value that we must believe in if we want to have a cohesive society, then we cannot just go along with platitudes. We have to definitely make it a core value of the company. And companies have to recognize that they are social agents. It cannot, I think companies no longer buy the idea that the maximization of shareholder benefits is the sole goal of a company. It's a maximization of stakeholder benefits now, which is necessary. And stakeholders mean the larger community within which we live, which in most cases, and particularly in Singapore, is very, very multicultural. So the responsibility of all the companies that are in Singapore, from small to large, is not to just go along with government measures to push multiculturalism, but to actually promote it within our own daily actions.
Yeah, appreciate your insights and advice there, Mr. Ho. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts. That was Ho Kwon Ping, founder and executive chairman of Banyan Group.